Breaking news this morning, President Trump on the verge of the first major legislative victory of his second term. The House is headed for a final vote on his sweeping tax and spending bill after a dramatic breakthrough overnight. Republicans winning over a handful of holdouts who had been threatening to tank the president's signature legislation. This morning, it appears on track to pass ahead of Trump's self-imposed deadline to get it to his desk by tomorrow. Now, the president posted this shortly before 1 in the morning saying, quote, "For Republicans, this should be an easy yes vote." Ridiculous. He piled on the pressure after meeting with some of the GOP holdouts yesterday. These are the numbers, though, that gave at least some Republicans pause. Nearly 12 million more people expected to become uninsured under the bill. The national debt will go up another $3.3 trillion. Those numbers come from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. CNN's Annie Grayer is on Capitol Hill this morning. What are you learning? It seems that there is one Democrat standing in the way of a vote so far this morning.
That's right. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is on the floor. As soon as he finishes wrapping, we are expecting a final vote here. And this, Sarah, has been a roller coaster. Up until about 3 o'clock this morning, Republicans did not have the votes on this. There were as many as 5 Republicans who were voting against this, and they can only lose 3. But we saw House Speaker Mike Johnson deploy a strategy that he has done again and again, which is to call a vote when maybe he doesn't necessarily have the votes, he's not sure, but he wants to hold this vote open and apply a direct and public pressure campaign on these members. If you were to watch the House floor last night, you would have seen the Speaker and his leadership team talking directly to lawmakers, trying to make the case for why they should be voting yes. Of course, President Donald Trump and his team have been crucial here in getting members to yes, meeting with them at the White House yesterday. Trump deployed his team to the Hill to meet directly with members on the Hill in ongoing meetings. Now, part of what took so long is Republicans have different concerns here with this, so it takes time to work through all of that. You have a group of more moderate Republicans who think that the Senate's version of this bill makes too deep of a cut to Medicaid. They're concerned about how it's going to impact their constituents. And then on the other side of the issue, you have Republicans who think that the Senate's bill doesn't cut nearly enough spending. So that is the seesaw that Republican leaders have to walk. It's a dynamic that we've been covering throughout this entire process, but an added development for the House is some House lawmakers don't just want to swallow what the Senate passed. They worked on their own bill for months, and they want to make some final changes to it. Of course, the message from leadership and the White House at this point is that this is the best that we're going to do. This is the final product. And it seems like House Speaker Mike Johnson's dare to defy strategy in an overnight voting session appears to have worked. As soon as the top Democrat in the House, Leader Jeffries, finishes his speech, we are expecting there to be a final vote, and the House Republican leadership is confident that they have the votes to deliver this to President Trump's desk by his self-imposed deadline of July 4th, tomorrow.
Yeah, so confident that the House Speaker is saying they're going to get this done by 8 this morning. That's less than an hour. Annie Grayer, thank you so much for your reporting there. John?
The president himself working the phones, working the social media on this. Let's get right to CNN's Kevin Liptak at the White House for what they're saying behind you this morning.
Yeah, a lot of enthusiasm here at the White House as this bill appears to be heading towards a final vote. Really the most consequential piece of legislation in President Trump's second term, but he's not taking anything for granted. He was posting on social media in the wee hours of the morning at one point writing, "What are the Republicans waiting for? What are you trying to prove? MAGA is not happy and it's costing you votes." About a half hour after that, at 12:45 a.m., the president writing, "For Republicans, this should be an easy yes vote." Ridiculous. We also understand that he was on the phone with some of these Republican holdouts into the dark hours of this morning. We also saw that parade of Republicans coming into the White House yesterday representing both sides of opposition to this bill. You had the centrists concerned about some of the cuts. You also had the fiscal hawks concerned about the effects on the deficit. The strategy in those meetings appeared to be more honey than vinegar. The president taking photos, handing out White House swag, signing name cards for some of these Republicans as he worked to get them on board. Of course, looming over all of this are the president's threats of political retribution if Republicans vote no. Many saw the case of Thom Tillis in the Senate as something of a cautionary tale. Remember, he voted against the procedural measure. The president lashed out on social media. Eventually, Tillis said he would just retire. The president really has set this up as a loyalty test, and it doesn't appear as if many Republicans at this point are willing to go against him. And it really does, I think, show now the stranglehold that President Trump has on the Republican Party as this appears to be heading towards a final vote. And this is, a hugely consequential moment for President Trump. He does appear now at the height of his political power. There's no question whether you're for or against this bill, it will now comprise a major piece of his domestic legacy. The question now and the process now is defining what exactly that legacy will be.
Yeah, the chasm between what some of these Republican members said about the bill and then going to vote for it, it is just enormous, and it does show the political power that the president has as he sits behind you in the White House this morning. Kevin Liptak, keep us posted as to what you hear. Thank you very much.
House Republicans appear prepared to hand Donald Trump the most significant win of his presidency by passing this big, beautiful bill, as it's known. This recent poll, though, like a number of other national polls, finds Americans oppose that bill by a 2-to-1 margin, making it a tough sell for Republicans to their constituents. The group chat is back, sort of picking up where we left off in terms of this being a tough sell. There's also the sell on, Lulu, on the creative math here and whether the math is mathing, as we say. That is certainly playing out, and we're hearing it in all the sound bites. The reality, though, will kick in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the most interesting things about this bill is that you have all these different groups opposed to it for very different reasons, which says that when you have so much stuffed into one big thing, it is, as has been called by many people, a big, beautiful mess. And certainly, one of the things that I think is a really big red flashing sign for Republicans is that Democrats were united against this bill. And what that says to you is this. Looking at the political fallout, leaving aside the actual economic fallout of this, there are many Democrats who are in swing districts who, if they felt that it was good for them, would have voted for this, would have joined with Republicans. We've seen that before. None of them did, neither in the Senate or in the House. And that says to you that they feel very strongly that what's in this bill is going to be beneficial for them and hurt Republicans. And this math is really hard to actually stitch together because what you have here is a bill that is going to cost so much money to the American taxpayer in the long run up the deficit, and really take away entitlements. We've seen independent group after independent group score this as basically millions of people losing their health care, essentially lots of people having to pay more out of pocket for things that they should have gotten before. So I think this is going to, in the long term, hurt the GOP.
Audrey, when we look at this, there are two. We see all these independent analyses, right? And then we're also hearing from Republicans, a lot of Republicans, that doesn't play. We have fiscal conservative Republicans who have been very concerned about this aspect of it moving forward, and yet they are voting for it. How much could this hurt Republicans as we look at the deficit?
I think fiscal conservatives clearly are concerned about that. But what is really interesting is that a lot of these debt and deficit hardliners who had spent days railing against this bill on the floor, speaking with reporters, are now voting for this Senate-passed bill with no changes. So that is pretty remarkable. I do think that one of the biggest political cudgels that the president has had going for him is, as you said, this is expected to be the biggest signature legislative achievement of his second term. And as you know, I'm sure we'd all pay to be a fly on the wall in his private conversations with Republicans in person and over the phone. I'm sure he continued to stress the reality that a vote against this bill is a vote against border security funding, which is a big deal for fiscal hardliners in those deep red districts, as we've discussed before, but also a vote to side with Democrats in letting the 2017 tax cuts lapse. But this is an imperfect bill. Speaker Johnson has said as much. He said something along the lines of, this is the best we could do given the slim margins. But it is also really interesting to look back at what the Senate passed and how that came to pass. It was over 24 hours of a vote-a-thon earlier this week, and a lot of Senate Republican aides told me that they didn't really know how this was going to go. They didn't have the votes, right? It only came together early or in the morning, right, when they got Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski.
We're going to have to. The headline I have to say, though, the headline I have to say was really funny in Politico this morning. It said MoCo, which is that basically, that everyone always chickens out in both the House and the Senate.